Hey everybody, what's going on? Alan here. Welcome back to another week of the Gibson Garage Speed Shop. And if you've been following along last week, you'll know that we did a lot of work inside. We replaced the stereo system. It was supposed to be an effort to get stuff off of the shelf, but instead of getting stuff off the shelf, we actually have more stuff now. Because we were going to put these crappy Kenwoods and we were going to put this faceplate in, but then realizing the other one in the Suburban was modified, no sense in modifying two of them, just use the one from the Suburban. So I still have the faceplate. The other one that was in my pickup went back in the Suburban, so basically they just swapped, and I still have this, doing nothing. Kenwoods didn't fit, didn't sound good, so they're not in. And now I have 30-year-old original speakers here, 4x6s, because I replaced those all at the same time. So I did get some stuff done in the truck, but ended up with a lot of extra stuff. So I think this stuff should just go in the trash. They're junk. 30-year-old speakers. These aren't necessarily junk, but I have no use for them. I don't know. I don't want to just keep putting stuff back on the shelf. That's not the point. I'm trying to clear the shelf. No, but we'll throw this stuff away and we'll keep the Kenwoods and maybe we'll put them in the Suburban in another episode. These are a dime a dozen, so I'm not real heartbroken about that. You can go to any pick and pull and find a decent one of any color. So I am gonna be clearing the shelf a little bit, at least of this faceplate, but the speakers are gonna hang out for a little bit. So in this week, though, moving forward with what we couldn't finish last week was this valve body. Those parts were supposed to be in today, but it's getting late in the evening, so I don't think they're gonna show. But we did some other stuff in the meantime. I was staying busy. I am changing out the diff fluid, scraping out all the stuff from in the tubes, jacking up each end and letting it drain from each tube, and then I'll scoop it out of the pumpkin there. And we'll put in the 80-90 because I had 140 in there. For some reason I had it in my head it was supposed to be 140. Okay, next day, and the diff is all drained out and I've got it all put back together. And so we just got to put some fluid in it, and I put it back on the ground for now. Because we're going to work on this now. We get the parts for the valve body are in. Just like at the end of the last video, we stopped at drilling this hole here, which is somewhere around here. And now we can actually put the valve in itself. We could have finished that, I guess, at the end of the last video, but we still would be waiting on the parts that showed up today, which are right here. And this is a whole kit from Sonnax. There's the part number there. And this is the instructions that come with it. Tells you how to do each of these bags. We even got some new servo parts. Now I already had an aftermarket Corvette servo, but I think we're gonna go ahead and use these anyway, just because I don't want mismatched stuff, right? This is sold as a kit to all work together. It's probably the same thing as what I have in there. I imagine that's probably all it is too, is just a Corvette servo or the next step up or whatever it is. So, but we'll go ahead and do it and replace it all anyway. And then of course we've got our billet aluminum pinless pistons. If you look here, these pistons are very not as deep, shallow pistons, and they have this pin in the middle to keep everything aligned. Like there's a pin in the middle of that for this piston, and this one here on the side of the valve body has a piston, has a pin also. So we get rid of all that weight and all that potential leaking in the center there with these guys. These are double O-rings, so they're very deep, they're thick boys. And then you got some pump upgrades here to increase the line pressure. Springs for those accumulator pistons. more springs and drill bits and a bunch of tiny little plugs. You probably can't even see them. They're tiny little plugs in these little dope bags that we got to find. We got to plug up these little holes, I'm thinking, in the separator plate, a couple of those. So that'll be fun. But first, let's go ahead and finish this pin 2-3 heavy duty shifter, and then we'll move on to that kit. Alright, so just like the directions here, this is the 2-3 shift valve. We're going to need to pull that out. We're going to flip it over to do that, to get to that clip, which is easy enough. Let's say it's the farthest away one. Just pull up. Now careful, these go shooting across the garage. Woo! And you won't ever see it again. Wiggle this guy out because there's an O-ring. Then we can work out the valve. Hey, that worked. Whoa, 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 whoa. Well, that's this one over here. That can go back in. Don't think we're replacing that guy. So here's the valve in the kit here. Part number one more time is 77754-41. So this whole section here is filled in. Where on the original one it's got a gap. Yeah. So we'll just slide it in. Put that one back in. Put this back in. Give her a wiggle because of the O-ring. There it is. Push this clip on. Easy peasy. Super simple. This will go in the bag and go in my box of other parts along with the directions. I'll always keep this stuff even though it's a little soaked in transmission fluid. So we'll just start at the front of the instruction book here. There's not a lot, but it still seems to be pretty informative. Lots of good pictures. Fan of pictures. So you see it goes here through the different bags. Each one's labeled: case parts, pump parts, accumulator, servo, valve body. And those are all right here and what they include. And a picture of most of the parts. It doesn't show the drill bits that are over here, but not a big deal. And then it says some information before you begin about the transmissions that have pulse width modulation and don't have pulse width modulation. There's enough here to cover all of the years of the 4L60E from like 92, I think it is, or 93, on to 2006 or something like that, 2005. They include all the parts to cover all the options. And my transmission is unique in a couple ways. That it is a 1994. It does not have pulse width modulation. So I have, supposedly, I have this long one here in the valve body. This is valve body parts. So that'll be interesting to see that. Another thing interesting about my transmission is that it does not have a return spring in the 3/4. So these accumulators here, you got outer casing. This is the 3/4 with the double spring, inner and outer double spring in there. And then you've got the plate. Actually, it goes this way. It sits next to the valve body over here somewhere. And you've got this plate, and then you've got this piston, and in some cases another spring going up into the transmission case this way. Mine did not have a spring, and so it was confusing me when I was looking for parts. Upgrade kits, shift kits and stuff, and it was throwing me off. So pay attention to that. But the kit comes with a spring for that place, and so I'm going to use it. I'm going to put a spring in that position when this transmission never had one. So what these accumulators are, with my very limited understanding, these pistons moving up and down like this, and this one over here moves sideways in this bore, up, you know, piston traveling in the bore like that. They are basically like shock absorbers for the shift. So when the fluid deadheads into the clutch pack to make that thing shift, it's not so harsh. You have this piston here to kind of absorb the fluid impact like a shock absorber would, so the shifts aren't so hard. Now mine, considering it had no spring at all for the 3/4 shift, meant that's as soft a shift as you can get when there's no spring behind the piston. It's just whatever fluid pressure is behind the piston counteracting it, which is obviously enough in most cases. But keep in mind that I also have the 305 in that pickup truck. This is original transmission to the vehicle. 305 is original to the vehicle, so that's probably why I have that version without a spring, because this was meant for just gas saving. Wasn't really meant to be a big hauler or a speedster or what, you know, wasn't meant to go fast like the SS. It's like quite the very extreme opposite version of what the 454 SS version would have been as far as the transmission springs and upgrades go, right? The lightest duty probably. Yeah, it was stubborn to come out. Yeah, one long one. So yeah, I don't even have a thing here, which must be for the pulse width modulation, and I have one long piece instead of this photo here, 93 to 94 non-PWM pulse width modulation. This is what you're gonna have when everything else has this 3-piece setup, some variation. So, I mean, that felt nice and tight. Obviously, we're just inspecting it. That feels really good, so we'll just put it back together. Don't need to change nothing if you have that style as I do. So we won't be using this valve or this spring, which I think is what that's for. Now, these do have the nylon check balls, 8 of them, so that's cool. We can replace the steel ones with the nylon ones. Those are supposed to be easier on the plate. Check out this paper too. 94 models only. Says 3/4 accumulator spring color in the 94 models. This is the 1/2 accumulator spring color for all these different model valve bodies. You could have no paint for the inner mixed with, you know, whatever color for the outer, and that's this one, the 2 spring setup, the inner and the outer on the 1/2 accumulator. I have a white inner and a yellow outer, which isn't even an option on here. It's not even a combination option. There's only 2 that have white as an option for the inner, and it would be either violet for outer or dark green for outer. The 3/4 accumulator, which is this other piston that I did not have a spring for at all, this last line, these models of valve bodies, not used, did not have a spring. It's not missing, it's just I have that option, I guess. And then you got the 1993 models here. So now for the separator plate, we're still working on this first page. There is a PWM hole right here that it's pointing out. Here, can you guys, are you looking at me? Right here and here. A little tiny guy, just like the photo over here. So it says I gotta drill it out to a 1/16, which they included. And then I've got to take one of these tiny little aluminum plugs and peen it into place, it says, which I think means kind of smash it, mushroom it on both sides, I'm guessing. I don't know, but yeah, it's weird that I would have the hole, or that it would even be necessary to plug, since I've got a valve body that did not have PWM. But we'll do it anyways, just because I'd hate to, you know what I mean. Harder than it looks, fellas. Ooh. I think it fell right into place. That might be the perfect size hole. Don't think that's moving. Boom, baby. So here's what we'll be replacing. These 3 pistons with their respective pins with these billet aluminum pinless pistons that are double O-ringed, and they have stronger springs. So this one in mine, for the 3-4, didn't even have a spring. Putting a purple one there. For the 1-2, it's got 2 springs. We're using a purple, same as for the 3-4, a purple one for the outer. And then for the inner is also a violet. Maybe that's violet. It's probably stronger than the white, I'm guessing. I have no idea. Let's do the squeeze test. Ah! Holy cow, actually I think that is way stronger. I can tell. And for the forward accumulator sticking out over here, goes behind this plate here, we're going to be reusing the spring that was in there. And yeah, so next on the paper here is doing that forward accumulator. I've already put the O-rings on it. There's a soft one that the groove is just wide enough for. They call that the D-ring because it's kind of beveled on both sides. A D-shaped O-ring. It's a soft one, and then you got this hard nylon one that's all squared, and that goes on the bottom. Again, the grooves are cut precisely, so it'd be hard to get it wrong. Same with all of these. You got a skinny one that's soft, goes on top, and then the harder, fatter one goes on the bottom. So what we have to do is actually take a couple of these steel check balls that came in the kit. Alongside the 8 plastic ones are 2 steel balls that we need to drive into, oh my gosh. Alright, just come on out. Come on out. All of you. There we go. These 2 steel balls are going to get driven where the pin sat inside this case here. We got to put them inside that hole and then stake the hole after we put them in so the balls can't fall back out. Okay, here it goes. Oh, that actually goes in real easy. Cool. Why not just give like a plug? bottomed out. There it is. Now stake it. Oh yeah. Nice. That ball's not coming out of there. Okay, put that spring in there for now. According to the directions, piston will go in first. Get some lube on that guy. Ooh, that's so nice. Then this guy. Then no pin. Instead we'll do just the plate. So cool. First modification done. I'll just push these down by hand slowly till my fingers break and I can't do it anymore. Alright, so with the larger drill bit, which is the 3/32, or the 0.093 as they call it in the instructions. I don't know why they're going back and forth from fractions to decimals. I'm trying to make it complicated, but this is 1/16 and this is 3/32 or 0.93. And we're going to drill out about 5 holes in the separator plate just to make them bigger. Per the instructions right here, the next step on the page is these 5 spots, A through E. And then, as it says here, we're going to place the 8 plastic check balls in place. Okay, so A is going to be this one here. Okay, that's already drilled out. B is going to be this one. Okay, we'll drill that one. Just make sure that's right again. Let's double check that here. Yeah, no other hole in the area except for D. So we'll drill that out. And we'll actually finish it off from the other side. So that worked perfectly. I've got no burr on either side. C, I believe, is this guy over here. Let's see, below those 2 off to the side. Yeah, got these 3 as a marker, pretty much directly below that. Now back over to D, which is this hole here. That is a little hole. And now E actually does get the smaller one. So the first 4 holes are the same, and then E does get a smaller one, but there's a discrepancy. So this is a 1/16 inch drill bit, which is 0.065. Now it says to drill out this 5th hole, hole E, with a 0.52, which is smaller than a 1/16, which nobody has that. There's this hole way out here. It's this hole way out here, right above the corner. I'm gonna drill it out with the 1/16, 0.65 instead of 0.52. Maybe Sonnax can see this and help me out with a new separator plate. Very nice. So that's all the holes drilled. And it's weird that one of them didn't have to be drilled out. That very first one, I think it was. Yeah, A up here. That didn't have to be drilled out at all. That's interesting. Now it says install the 8 plastic check balls in their original locations. Lucky for me, I have that information. Does it go this way? Yeah. So this is the early model, 93 to 2000, and then this is 2001 and up. So I'll be looking at this one. And we got boom, boom. I could only locate 6 on this side. Where's the 7th one? Oh, it's in that same chamber right here. It just doesn't have a pocket. That's why I couldn't find it. I was looking for all these little hemispherical pockets. Pretty much. Note the changes. There's a difference here they're shown between the 2 valve bodies. So that's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the 8th one goes on top of the separator plate. Okay, so the next step is the 1 to 2 accumulator valve shim installation, step 5 of the valve body parts. So we're still in the valve body bag here, and it looks like it's going to be this metal piece. Okay, so there are 3 drill bits. The smallest one, the 052, that I was supposed to use to drill out this hole, was hiding inside of the spring. I didn't see it. It just says twist drills. It doesn't say how many, so my mistake. But I did drill this out to a 16th instead of the 052, and this is the hole E AFL balance oil. So I don't know what's going to happen there. Hopefully nothing too serious. But I might need a new accumulator plate anyways, because some of these holes where the steel check balls were have already done some damage. So that's no bueno, but roll with what we got for now. So on to step 5, the 1 to 2 accumulator valve shim. That is going to go somewhere, I think right here. Oh, it's right next to this hole. It's down here. You're going to need a feeler gauge. You won't be able to get this and the tool in there. That's it for that page. Next one is the accumulator parts, which is this guy here. Identify your accumulator first, your housing. 01, there's 3 different styles. 01 and later, 94 to 2000, and then 93. So there's a double step, and then 2 single steps, a large one and a small one. I have the large single step because I have a 94. So I do not need this spacer. First of all, that's the first thing you need to figure out. Do you need this spacer? Identify, do you need it? I do not, according to this. 94 to 0 housings do not need the spacer. Now what we got to do is take this pin out, I believe. I'll probably read the directions, but then we've got to assemble this up in the valve body, which means we'll have to get the gasket in place too. So I think we'll have to punch it out from this side. And the pin is out. So we're on to the accumulator parts bag now, and we're going to grab whichever ball is the right size, one or the other it says, and we're going to shove it in that hole to plug up where the pin was. And that one will do the trick. I think trying to shove that one in there would be a way too much, considering how easy the other balls went in. bottomed out. We should probably stake that too. Stake ball in place, yep. That'll work. Install the O-rings. Now these pistons are the same, so at this point it doesn't really matter. However, this is the one I should be using technically that came in the bag that's lined up here with the double springs. So that's the one we'll use. So the springs go in no spacer because I have the 94 to 2000 housing. Put in that spring, piston, simple enough. There we are, we're in. Okay. And then there's this wavy spring that's gonna go right there. That's one spring. I thought there's like 3. It's like, what? But no, just one. And then that'll get bolted up. But we gotta get the gasket, the plate, and the other gasket to go all up at the same time. So again, you gotta pay attention to the ear here on this pump boost valve spring and spring installation. Pressure regulator boost valve and spring installation. Basically the difference is going to be whether or not you use this thin spacer here. And again, the cutoff is 94 to 2000. Those are longer than the 05 and later. Does not say anything about the 1993, but we got to get under the car. Oh, these stupid things. These are all twisting up. Brr. Got it. Oh, that only took forever. Now just come on out for me. There we go. There it is. The inner spring. Let's get this to the table. Okay, so now we're on pump parts, which is this sleeve. This is the booster sleeve, boost valve sleeve, plus a new boost valve inside of there. I think we should probably get that out and make sure it works. There we go, blowing the right hole, you get it to come out. Oh, it's got some grease in there, very nice. We'll smear that grease around there. That's better. So now, unlike another video I saw, this one has O-rings, the replacement one. So get the O-rings that came in the kit. And we'll put them on here. My fingers got transmission lube on them, so there we go. Now this, whoop, we'll use this spring, but we're going to take that spring out and use the one that came with it. There's this one here, just like that, and like that, and then this other spring goes somewhere else. And we'll use this spacer too, that'll go right at the end of it, and it actually does make it the same length as mine. So that's one way to verify it, is if it's the same length as the one that comes out, whether to use it or not, we will use it. And this other spring, I still don't know where it goes. It goes in the pump against the actual pump itself inside there. It's called the slide spring. but I don't know if you can get to that from outside the body, where that's at exactly. So to do this last thick spring that's in the pump parts bag, it's purple. I've got to drop the transmission. They just kind of nonchalantly, oh, pull out the 2 springs that are in there and replace it with 1. No big deal. Yeah. And then don't mention you got to pull the transmission out to get to that part of the pump.
This Dorito flavored liquor, and yeah, I guess it tastes it's got a bouquet that, quote, is brimming with the unmistakable tang of cheese dust. Yeah, and they thought the aftertaste for Food and Wine, did a little, tried it out, and they thought the aftertaste was a little more like Fritos than Doritos, but it totally tastes like that. And the evil genius behind it was Lars Williams, co-founder of Empirical, and he's been making it for years.
That's interesting. I'd try some Doritos flavored liquor, some whiskey for sure. All right, this transmission's about to come out. Now how do we get it out from under the truck? And you wonder why do you get the truck up so high? It's still not high enough. You see me? I'm like, eh. Oh, give it up. Thank you. Suction much? Oh, okay. I said thank you. Oh my God, you're heavy. Ugh. There it is. This all for the spring right here. Took the transmission out just so I could get in here and replace this spring. So there are 2 springs in here, in fact, and I've confirmed that on other videos, and they are both going to be replaced by this one purple spring. It's kind of purple on one side. This is the part where I lose my eye. It just hits me in the face somehow. Jeez. Oh, it's only part of it. Oh God, we're okay. We're okay. So the spring is a little shorter than this one, but man, I can't hardly squish it. This one I can squish. Let me do that. I can squish it to smaller than the size of the purple spring. I cannot squish this spring that much at all. So that is significant. Phew. And that is how I center the 2 halves. Last time I used like a bucket, and I cut the bucket, a 5-gallon bucket, and I cut the bucket and used like a strip of bucket and used it, I forget how, but this time I'm trying the clamps. Come here. I'll just slowly suck it in with the tools. I made sure that plastic washer didn't fall. So it should be alright. Okay, don't forget the check ball there in the case, and the screen goes right there. Yeah. And now we gotta find out where we gotta put the gasket and the plate, and then the other gasket, and then the accumulator actually has to go in here first, and then the 3/4 accumulator goes on top of the plate. Then I got to place all the check balls on the plate and gasket, kind of precariously. I think I'm gonna have to lift this up. Okay, moving on to the servo now that we've done the spring and the pump. We'll move on to the next page here, servo parts. And that is, first thing you got to do is just get it out. So you got to, it moves a little bit. There we go. See how that moves? This is a hard clip. You gotta force out like that. And there should be a point where you can grab the closest O-ring as soon as it exposes itself. There it is. There you go. Pull it, and that makes it thinner. You could break it too, and then everything falls out. And that's everything. Okay, in the servo parts bag, we've got O-rings and 2 springs. Nothing else this time. Double check, right? Well, I'm lucky I had a spare servo O-ring, because this one that I broke is not replaced in the kit. So you need to be careful. Don't break your O-rings. So to replace these springs, I think they're inside there. That feels a little loose. Might be good that we're taking this apart. These O-rings all feel really like loose. These are actually those nylon rings, so they're not gonna have that O-ring type of fit. And so is this one, so. There's that spring. Spring test. Feels a little stiffer maybe. It's hard to tell. There's a snap ring in here. I forgot about that. It's a pretty tight spring. Might want to put this in the press. Let me get that out. There we go. That's the old boost sleeve and valve. Now, to upgrade the servo, get this spring out of here, put that spring in there. Yeah, baby. Just gotta put that clip back in. And now we can clip this thing back together. There we go. Need it going in and out, nice and easy. Cody, shush. Put in the new spring, the washer, and this only takes a hair of pressure, and it only goes down far enough to stick a clip in there. Okay. That goes like that, and that goes like that. I gotta get an O-ring on this guy. Wonderful, wonderful. Maybe we should replace this one too. Yeah, might as well replace it. Let's look at the pictures and make sure I put it back together correctly. I don't have a bumper spring. Oh well. Yeah, let's put it back in now. Ew. Oh wow. New O-rings make a big difference. Don't want to forget to put this boost sleeve in. Don't want to forget that at all. All right, now on to case parts, which is the last piston, the last spring, and this little guy here. I'm gonna slide an O-ring onto him. I don't know why they just can't put it on there for me. Now this is gonna go in the case. This is kind of a side shot. It's not going in the servo area, it's just a side shot. It's gonna go in the top of the case downward where there's already an existing check ball situation thing happening, and it's gonna just float right over it like it says, with the O-ring side going in first, the bleeder hole up and right in there. Can you see that other shiny? No. And I felt it bottom out just there. Yeah. Just after it got below the surface, it bottomed out. And last but certainly not least is this accumulator here. Now the pin bore is a blind hole, so there's no need to plug it off. We just gotta get it in there, put the spring on top, got the check ball in, the screen in, so now we can put on the gasket and the plate and the other gasket. Okay, so we install the gasket that's marked with a C for case. Now this is, because of my year too, you're going to want to make sure you're doing the right year gasket for yours. Another gasket, V for valve body. Okay, it's Thursday, just afternoon, about noonish. No, it's afternoon. It's almost 2 o'clock actually. Anyway, truck's been in the air, just looking sad, not moving. So we've got the check balls in place, 7 on top here. And if you notice, it's all these teardrop shaped ones. 6 of them are teardrop shaped, holes in the gasket, and then the 7th one is right next to it. And then the 8th one actually is underneath, and this somewhere over here next to that accumulator. That piston and that spring is in. I've got my V and the KZ and the C all sitting there. And I made these pins out of some bolts I had laying around. I'm not sure they're going to be long enough, honestly, but we'll have to see what happens when we slide the valve body on. These 2 specific holes, they call them Z holes, are very tight toleranced, so it's supposed to line the plate with the valve body up and the case body. The gaskets, however, still have a little bit of room to move around, so you just have to do your best centering those. But let's see if these are long enough, if that worked. Yeah, that one's not coming out far enough. This one's coming out plenty far. I changed my mind. I'm going to put the separator plate on first to help hold down this end of things, as the plate is still aligned. This will give me a chance to kind of hand straighten the gaskets before I tighten down this end onto this spring over here. Now this accumulator gasket, or accumulator, £120 for these guys. And now we can remove these pins because the plate and gaskets are locked in place. We'll leave that one just to help guide it a little. We'll remove this one. you're supposed to go that way. In. So you got 3 tall screws sitting over there in the pile. This was that Z hole. So we can actually see if we can get that one started. And it's not falling into place. There we go. So we'll work on that one. There you go. And it almost doesn't move at all now with this pin and this bolt in there. We're gonna get all the bolts started first, and then we'll tighten them all down. Now there are 2 of the shortest ones left. One is gonna go here, and you would have left this on there. That's for the dipstick tube to stop on, and that's also your alignment hole, your other Z hole. I'm gonna push everything to the front. That seemed to be when the gaskets and everything lined up the best. And the other short one is gonna go right here next to it. The lowest, the only other low boss like that that's on the same plane as this bolt. And we just gotta figure out where all the other ones went. There are 3 with 8mm heads, and they go in specific spots. I'll point those out in a sec. Something I forgot to mention is that this harness needs to get plugged into your case before the valve body gets put on. I had mine already laying over, so sorry I forgot to mention that. You're going to want to put that on because you won't be able to afterwards. Then you can plug everything in and lay it down into place before you get the rest of the valve body bolts in. So the valve body bolts hold in this harness as well. And then this sensor here, wiggle it so that O-ring goes in nicely. Put in those 2 tiny bolts. Okay, so the 3 8mm bolts are going to go in the 3 that are furthest towards the back. One is going to go and hold that harness in place. And then the rest of the bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then this thing. And don't forget about bolt number 9 back here. I was like, why do I have an extra one? I swear I counted all these. Okay, so with all the bolts just kissing, we don't have all that much movement at all. In fact, it's interesting. All the other bolts seem to be staying still, except for these 2 pin bolts. They're moving with the valve body. So I'm gonna just like wiggle and tighten at the same time. There. Just finger tighten. Now I feel like that's centered. Nice. So these are all 120 inch-pounds as well. Just gonna start in the center and work your way out. If you can imagine, find your center bolt and imagine a spiral continuously getting larger, and then when it runs into something, boom, tighten that bolt. Boom, boom, boom. Know what I mean, Vern? All right, that is the shift kit. Did some upgrades to the servo, did some upgrades to the pump, did a whole bunch to the valve body. Let's go over the instructions, exactly what we went through first. Valve body parts, that's this bag here. Did not need much because I have a 94. I already have this long one, so we didn't use those parts. That's why there's extra there. We plugged the PWM hole, so we got, that's pretty cool. We don't have a pulse width modulation, so it makes sense that I would have that plugged regardless. Maybe they should have made a different plate, but maybe they know that it's not necessary to plug it. I don't know, but it's plugged. Next we have all those pinless accumulators. We put the 1 Ford accumulator in the valve body, and we drilled holes in the separator plate. We put that shim in there. You remember this shim here? Kind of separate the spring out just a little further here. We shove that down in there. And we didn't have to use the spacer because of the year of the vehicle, right? We didn't have to use that because I had a 94. The pump parts, that's the sleeve. This is the old stuff here for the pump parts. Replaced those items there. All that assembly there. And the pump slide spring. So this is actually a valve body part upgrade and a pump upgrade. Then the servo we talked about, we replaced this big spring right there, and we replaced the little spring right there, and that was all they provided. And some O-rings to re-O-ring it, except for the big ones. They did not include the big main ones that you're most likely going to damage trying to get it out, so that need to be prepared for that. The case parts, we did install that check valve that goes right above the stock check valve, just kind of stacks on top of it there. And then the other 3/4 piston that goes in the case there underneath that housing, underneath the 1-2 housing, goes underneath this. And we have 0 parts left in the bag, no extra parts, just old parts. And we got some extra drill bits. We've got a really tiny one that I'm stoked to have. I mean, I had these two, obviously. It's the 16th and like 5/32, I forgot, or something like that. But then this smaller one, it's like 0.052 or whatever it was, so that's cool. And hopefully drilling that hole a little too big isn't going to affect anything too much. I don't know, man. I probably need a new separator plate anyways, and I've got extra aluminum plugs, so I can, if I get a new plate, I can plug that hole back up, drill the other ones out the right way. Not a big deal. But I think I need a new plate anyways, just because the spot where all those check balls went and rammed into, it kind of mushroomed those out. And the first time I rebuilt it, I took their tip on just taking a ball peen hammer and flattening out those mushroomed areas. I didn't do that again. I don't know why. It's all back on the ground. Let's start it up. Battery died. That was weird. Here we go. Okay, let's go for a gear here. Okay, that went in. Neutral. Oh yeah. That kicked in hard. That kicked in real hard. Well, everything works. Ooh, not on the, barely on the stick. Well, it is cold, actually. Okay, so we're not too far off. I'll put in a gallon. Might need a little more. When it warms up there, we'll get a better idea. But now I am just so stoked to get all that back in the truck and go take it for a drive. I've got the Draggy. Boom, Draggy 10th gen. I've had this for months. I haven't even pulled it out of the box yet. It could be a box of rocks in there for all I know. Might not even be a Draggy. But we'll go weigh the truck on a scale as it is. I know I've already taken out some of the interior, but I want to weigh it before I do the next step, which is body dropping, which is going to eliminate a lot of metal. So stay tuned, subscribe, hit the bell, please like, all that stuff so you can catch that future episode of that and see what happens there. We'll go weigh it and take some baseline numbers on the Draggy and see what we got. Then we'll do the body drop and the other modifications, and we'll keep weighing and doing the Draggy as time goes on to see how the truck progresses. But until then, guys, I appreciate it. Peace.